Hey, Hans.
Morning.
Hey, morning. Oh, shit. I'm a day behind. No. Hey, I made you host really quick. I have to go grab a beer.
Okay.
Pull up the participants tab because there's going to be, you have to admit everybody.
Yeah.
All right, I'll be right
I
back.
got it. Go get a beer.
Thanks.
Yep. Did you see these? Look how weird it is.
Bed is 13.
And this one's like,
Yeah.
He's the cutest little guy.
oh, man, they smell good. Have you smelled them yet?
No.
Oh, man, they smell amazing. How do we get to the link?
I was going to encourage Christina to do a cartwheel. Oh my God, you're excited about that, aren't you? Is she? He's a.
I mean, it's time for curls. Just like the CIA was using the whole muscle.
I'm using my life.
Now I'm ready. Boom. Neil, welcome.
Can I make room
Yeah.
in this space?
Well.
Can I move it?
Yes. Am I taking up that much space?
How are these a good source of iron? I wanted to ask you about that the other day.
I don't know. The raisins
All
and
right, let's see. Welcome, everyone. Everyone's connecting to audio.
You on mute?
No.
Oh.
You should be quiet.
That's feeling church. Wow, that beer that Kenny made is good.
Yeah.
You want to try it? Oh man, it's so floral. Holy cow.
What's so floral, Christina?
The beer that
Wow.
Kenny made,
That's really floral.
he shared a bottle with us. Let me go get the cap because it
That's
has.
super hoppy, but good.
Well, it's like super floral hops. I really want to know what hops you use.
Nice. I finally got my hands on some Galaxy for the first time.
From Galaxy?
It's a cluster blonde.
Yeah.
Cluster Blonde?
That's what
Luster. Oh, you know what? This is his dry hop beer.
Yes, the dry hop.
Oh, okay. With do you know if he used pellets or whole hops?
No, he used fresh hops, like from his garden. I'm pretty. Oh, you know what? These are the ones that came from Neil and Ginny.
Cool.
There's a story to these cluster hops, actually. Those cluster hops are the ones that came from an old homestead, and they were rediscovered and reintroduced to the brewing community.
I'm saying that I need to be.
I'm sure that they would love to talk about that that little touch of history they got. I'm pretty sure Kenny knows the whole story too.
Oh, okay.
Hey, Pete, Chrissy. Hey, Hans, would you mind giving me host back? I don't know if I can revoke it or not.
You need to turn yours off. Yeah.
Thank you.
Host. Okay. Hold on.
There we go. Is that better?
Where's Chris?
Neil, can you hear us all right? Mr. Peterson. Oh, okay, there's a chat here. Neil, okay. No
Sorry,
problem.
mine was weird. Mine locked up.
Yeah. So Neil's working on his audio.
Okay, I
Most
think I
desktop
made you host.
computers don't have a microphone, just FYI. Neil, if you're still having issues, we might just send you the phone number to call into so we could hear your voice at least.
I made you host.
Thanks. Appreciate it. Cheers to everyone. Happy home brewing day. I mean, even if you're not brewing yourself, it's fun to think home brewing. Sean, when was the last time you brewed a beer? You're looking like you're finally getting the groove of things.
Probably, Jesus, I don't know. But, more than a month ago because I'm drinking it now.
Nice.
And it turned out great. I have a new system and it's working really well. Even though I think the last time I'm not sure if it was a general club meeting or the officers, but I had mentioned that Beersmith steered me wrong on my lactic acid.
Yeah.
Trying to acidify the mash, and it went way too low on the pH. And you know what, the beer was fine. It actually turned out like a great beer. And so all the advice online, which was, don't sweat it. You know? Yeah. If anything, I just spent more money than I needed to on lactic acid and whatever, like, you know, a couple pennies. And so, and honestly, our tap water is decent around here, and it's not out of range if you're on the Mad River tap water thing. I can't speak for well water, but you don't really need to do anything if you don't want to.
No, not really. Awesome. Yeah, I'm really excited because my brewery is all blown apart completely. But I think I posted on Facebook recently that I got to borrow a friend's Robo brewer. It was the Mash and Boil, which is like the cheapest one you can get online. And the Mash and Boil, like, so solid for I think it's like $300, and it's great. It's a mash in a basket, all electric, 120 system, and that I got like 92% mash efficiency. It's got a recirculation pump built into it, and I have to say, I'm sold on it. Like I had borrowed it with the intention of, you know, maybe purchasing one because my beer consumption is way down, my free time is way down, and I don't have natural gas out to my new brew shed yet, so all of my brewing equipment is essentially useless right now, other than the carboys, you know, so to speak. So yeah, I feel like I'm back to square one right now since I don't have natural gas out there or water. Oh, I guess I got to let Matt in. Yeah, no problem, Neil. No problem, Neil. Take your time. It's just good to see everyone in here. Nancy, I got to say hello and good job. I drank your beer from Six Rivers last week. That was super awesome to see your face on their Facebook post. Let's see. Shoot, who else is in here? Christina, good to see your face and not just your voice. Chrissy.
Thank you, Chris.
Oh yeah, my pleasure, Nancy. Yeah, Nancy, can you talk a little bit about how that whole thing transpired?
Yeah, sure. I had made this beer before, and I won a couple of awards with it up in Oregon, and I had actually brewed it on a commercial system, and it anyway, it worked out well. They did another batch, it worked out. Then they wanted to change the recipe, and it was like, They wanted to make it cheaper because it's expensive. It's an expensive recipe.
Yeah.
So anyway, this was a recipe that started a couple of years ago, actually. And anyway, I'll just fast forward. I thought I'm going to go and see if if one of the local breweries wants to do it. And I chose Six Rivers because I really like them, and you know, I knew Carlos peripherally, and he's a great guy. And I just went in there and I took some of my beer, my home brew, and they tasted it and they're like, yeah, let's do it. And then the whole thing with the Breast Health Project, I've been involved with them for 23 years, since they started, actually.
Nice.
And so it was just a win-win all the way around. Everybody there is super nice. I mean, it's been really a real positive experience. Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm always stoked when Six Rivers comes out with a beer that they, you know, do in conjunction with either a person from outside of the brewery or with an organization that they help to sponsor. I mean, those gals and guys out there, like, they do their part to be part of the community instead of just being insular and, you know, brewing beer
You know what they do.
for the sake of it.
And it's a really, you know, this is not an easy time for small businesses.
Mhm.
And they, I mean, you know, they really, I mean, I've known them for, you know, a long time. And I mean, you know, been to all kinds of different events there. They had all of us there, the homebrew club there.
Yeah.
A couple of years ago, and everybody brought their favorite hops and put it in there. That was fun. And yeah, they've just done a lot of different events, and they're good community people.
Yeah.
They also they did a big brew day. They hosted us. We had a bunch of systems there. They gave us free pizza and beer. One of the brewers cleaned my kettle.
Wow. Yeah, they're good. They're really good. It's nice, you know. I mean, especially nowadays with all the weirdness, it's just nice to go somewhere and have people be real and nice and positive. So,
Yeah, I agree. I'm super glad that we've got these great community members and also homebrewers to really, you know, push and represent. Good job, Nancy, for getting that fire under your butt.
yeah.
You know? Or as some people say, that fire in your gut.
Well, you know, I kept thinking about it and then one day I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna I'm gonna do it. You know, I mean, I was hesitant to do it, but I was glad I did, and it worked out. If you don't ask, you don't get. You know.
Yeah, that's true. That's the truth of it. Oh, sorry guys, I just kind of dropped the ball. There we go. Now people are getting in here. Sorry about. Everyone's waiting in the waiting room. Oops. I'm enthralled in conversation. Awesome. Cool. Well, I hope Neil can participate. Good to see y'all.
Yeah.
Hey, Neil, can you hear us now?
Yeah, I think I'm getting it here.
Yeah, we can hear you just fine. Perfect.
Oh, there we go. Sorry about that.
No, you're doing great.
I've apparently have old technology.
Oh man, Zoom
we're
updates
all
so
old,
frequently, it's impossible to keep up with them.
I hear that.
Well, everyone's in here, it seems like. I mean, this is a majority of us active members.
Sure.
Pete, I'll let you take it from here so we don't talk through some drudgery. I just want to say thank you, Nancy, for sharing your story about how we were able to taste your Nasty Woman IPA as brewed by Six Rivers, and part of that, the proceeds go to the Humboldt Breast Health Project. Is that correct? Yeah, and delicious beer. It had the perfect amount of sweetness for an IPA. I gotta say, I really like it when an IPA's got just a touch of sweetness to it from that honey malt. Delicious.
Yeah.
Nice.
A little goes a long way.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah, that's awesome, Nancy. Yeah, Neil, I don't know if you were able to hear about that one of Nancy's homebrew recipes was brewed at Six Rivers Brewery.
I did. I just saw an article somewhere about it. I haven't had a chance to taste it or anything, but that was really cool.
Yeah, Carlos is a super cool guy. I was able to meet Carlos, their head brewer, when I was the head brewer down at Woody's Brewing Company in Reading before I started this venture up here in Trinity County.
Well, all right. Well, hey Pete, if you wouldn't mind, would you mind introducing Neil and how we got here? And
Yeah, thank you very much for joining us, Neil.
Absolutely.
So actually, I ran into Neil briefly back in February in Reading when I happened to be having dinner at Woody's and found out they were having their homebrew meeting there that night, and was able to sit in at the tail end of that meeting. And at the end of the meeting, guy sitting next to me turns and says, "Oh, my name is Neil. What do you like to brew?" And then I found out that he was getting ready to open up Trinity County Brewing Company. So and he, as soon as got in touch, he said, yeah, he'd be happy to join us and talk a little bit about his brewing experiences. And so I think what we'd like to hear first is how you got into homebrewing, Neil, and then what it was like transitioning from homebrewing into doing, commercial.
whoa, wait. Someone went from home brewing into commercial brewing? This is a thing?
It happens. It would be a crazy idea for me to have not have home brewed. I guess if you go to a brewing school, that would be a different story. I didn't. I got into home brewing many years ago. I studied botany at UC Santa Cruz, was living in Santa Cruz afterwards, and started dating a gal. And through her interest in beer, I was not into beer at that point in time. Somehow made it through college and just was drinking the other crap. Part of it at that point, I just had never been introduced to good beer and sort of explained why good beer was good. I just, had such crappy beer through my early experiences that I just was not into it. Didn't have any taste for it. So was dating this gal. She was really interested in brewing. Ended up getting a home brew kit for her for Christmas, and that sort of started the home brewing saga. And that was, I guess maybe about 15 years ago or so now. Right at the end of college. And then I ended up sort of coinciding with that time period, I ended up getting a job at a winery in the Santa Cruz Mountains, Byington Winery, up on the Santa Cruz Mountain Ridge there, sort of, between the crest of going over the hill to San Jose and the Santa Cruz side. So it was a teeny bit of a drive from Santa Cruz, but sort of got exposed to fermentation more so, working there at the winery. It was a very small winery, a little boutique place. So I got to sort of get involved in everything from harvesting to pressing to bottling to, sort of learning about all that. And then that sort of evolved into one of my first real loves, which was cider making and still is cider making. I have a big passion for that. And so started getting into that, and then started the home brewing, and that sort of kind of evolved from there. And then we ended up doing, like, later that spring, brewed a couple batches and bottle conditioned them and served them for her graduation, and just sort of started down that road. A little side caveat, always a big fan of bottle conditioned if you can do it. It's a labor of love, but big fan of it, especially for certain styles of beers. But anyways, so yeah, homebrewed for years and made cider and worked there for a couple years, and then sort of went on in life and was homebrewing off and on, not too heavily. And then in 2011, after I was still living in Santa Cruz, so left Santa Cruz to hike the Pacific Crest Trail. And actually met my other business partner, Jacob. Met him out there on the trail. He was through hiking as well, so that's how we coincided. And then, the process of this getting going, the brewery was many years after that. But that was where we initially met. And then after that, I moved up this way and reconnected with Jacob here. He lives over. He was born and raised in Reading. So Shasta County, and I bought a place over heading out towards Bernie, eastern Shasta County. And so I was homebrewing there off and on, and then actually decided to go on another big hike and went and hiked the Continental Divide Trail, and came back after that in 2014. I was looking for a job, and was sick of landscaping in the Reading heat. So ended up looking around, and a friend of my girlfriend at the time, who's a winemaker down at Bernsini Vineyards, which is down in Red Bluff. They make some great wines. So she alerted me that Woody's Brewing Company was going to be opening up there in Reading. So I applied there, got an interview. At that point, they were just hiring for beer tenders, kitchen staff, that sort of thing. They were going to be starting out with the pub being open and doing contract brewing. So they opened up in 2015, and I started as one of the initial employees. And even at that time, I made it clear to them, you know, my goal was to get into the brew house, and just sort of made that clear, you know, that I didn't mind working behind the bar, and I still sort of, I miss it sometimes and enjoy it. It's a fun activity to interact with the customers and talk about beer, you know, very different than being in the brew house all day by yourself. So started working at Woody's behind the bar there, and getting, you know, introduced to their beer and learning their beers. And then they started building the brew house there in their you know, current facility. Meanwhile, their beer was being brewed off-site at Lassen Ale Works in Susanville. So those guys were contract brewing, and they'd bring it over in kegs, and then we'd, you know, just hook it up to taps and serve it. So that went on until early 2016, and then that spring we started brewing there. So in the process of them building the brewery, it was sort of a unique opportunity for me to just sort of make myself present and be there and try to just sort of not go away, you know, just be a bug, if you will, and pick up as much as I could. And the sort of good thing, I guess, in a way, is, you know, none of them had really built a brewery too. So there was a lot of learning curve for them. And so, you know, it was kind of nice to see that and be involved in some of that, you know, because that's really led to a big hand in, you know, building this brewery. So yeah, so helped kind of finalize and get the brewery going at the spring of 2016, and then worked there and started immediately. Was hired as the assistant, you know, or whatever brewer. I don't remember what my title was at that point. I wasn't too worried about it. I was just excited to be in the brew house. So it was definitely sort of a big, you know, like, wow, volume change. You know, that's sort of the main thing, I think, with home brewing versus pro brewing. You know, it's a lot of the same principles, but the process of making those principles happen is quite different due to the scale. You know, it's no longer your carboys and a siphon. You know, it's now a tank with a proper dip tube and a pump, and, you know, so it's that sort of learning those processes, and that was where, from my perspective, it was kind of good. Oh, my dog's coming in to join the meeting here. Hang on, let me close the door. There's my dog Buddy, the brew house dog here. He wanted to say hello. He's gonna climb out of the desk here and do some paperwork for me. But anyways, yeah, so started, you know, got to learn a lot there, a lot of hands-on learning, and you know, sort of slowly developed the skills and learning how to brew their recipes, and learning on a big, you know, 10-barrel system, and you know, figuring out Woody's has bright tanks that are in a cold room. So bright tanks are sort of, you know, the key step, I guess, if you will, in the classic secondary fermentation. You know, transferring from one carboy to another, or another tank, you know, in this scale. So I was learning a lot of those processes, was huge, and just, yeah, it gave me a really solid foundation for brewing and how to run a brewery. There's no way I would have started this without that experience, that's for sure. So.
Hey, Neil, I've got a quick question.
Yeah, sorry, I can ramble.
No, that's a perfect introduction to, you know, everything we're hoping to dive into, you know, because I feel like quite a few of us, you know, want that experience, or, you know, kind of hope for that experience of, you know, getting our foot in the door and then trying things out. But with Woody's, right?
Yes, Woody's Brewing Company down in
What was that
Reading.
like in terms of volume? So you said it started out contracting, but then what was the barrel amount that you guys started with when you first built out the brewery versus what you are at now with Trinity?
Yeah, absolutely. So Woody's is a 10-barrel combi system from Premier Stainless, great company out of San Diego. We actually have one of their systems as well. So Woody's is a 10-barrel system. Like I said, they've got 10-barrel bright tanks in their cold room, and then we ended up upgrading. They got 2 20-barrel fermenters and a 20-barrel bright in their fermentation space that we were using for some of the bigger batches. I would double batch. I would double batch things like the American Wheat and their Quickie IPA. So would do do one batch one day, 10-barrel batch, pitch sort of over pitch on that first batch, and then the second day brew the same batch, same beer again. Second batch and just dump it on top of that one and ferment out, and then we could transfer into the bright tank, and sort of that was convenient for doing bigger batches for trying to push for distribution. So long-winded answer there, but so ultimately then with building our brewery here in Trinity County, we were faced with a sort of interesting challenge in that here we don't have any natural gas. So as far as the brew system, it needed to either be electric or propane. And if any of you have propane at your homes or brew with it, you know that it's a pretty expensive gas, and it fluctuates hugely whether it's winter or whatnot. And actually, even you get an already cold snap in Kentucky, and they start using more gas, and our prices even go up here. So that just was out of the question. So we here in Trinity County have, with the Trinity Dam and the Trinity Public Utilities District, have amazingly great rates on our electricity. So looking at that, just due to the design physics of being able to heat a boil kettle, all electric doesn't go beyond 7-barrel. So beyond that, 10-barrel you could do as a direct fire, which is what Woody's had. So natural gas, direct fire burner. And then beyond that, 15-barrel, you really starting to head into steam jacket. And I liked Woody's with the 10, but I felt like it's a little bit limiting as far as maybe wanting to do smaller batches and experimental stuff, which is sort of what I'm into. So looking at that and really not wanting to go the route of having doing steam, because then that's a whole nother deal with having a steam boiler, and now you got to be a process, an engineer for that, and that's out of my wheelhouse, and so I didn't want to deal with that. So 7-barrel was sort of the biggest we could go in all electric, so that's what we decided on.
Wow.
Yeah,
so you guys boil and mash fully electric.
Yeah, we do. So our electric, the mash tun has got, so it's a combi system as well. So I don't know if any of you have ever seen Woody's or our system. Maybe I should try to just walk out there. It'll probably be terrible graphics and it'll look like garbage. But so the hot liquor tank sits below, and then the mash tun sits above, and that helps just keep the mash tun hot during mashing and so forth. So the hot liquor tank is one giant element, and then the boil kettle, is 5 just the most massive electric elements you could ever imagine. I want to say 9,000 watts. So they're huge, beefy, just beefy elements. So it's pretty crazy. I can get that sucker boiling before I'm even done sparging. Actually, I usually back off one of the burners. So it's been interesting to do. It's kind of a weird system though, because most of us are used to using a direct fire burner and hearing that flame and that, and it's reassuring in a sense. So it's kind of a weird deal here where the burner is like completely silent, or the boil kettle rather. You hear anything. It's like, oh, okay, that's weird. Is it going?
So does that bring some other challenges, having such powerful burners? Have you ever scorched anything? And been like,
I haven't. Yeah, no, I haven't. I did. I have boiled over. You know, just as home brewers do, I boiled over as well. So that has happened, and that was just me not modulating. And you can kind of turn off, you know, and select all the, you know, which burners you want to have going. And I sort of screwed up and forgot. So live and learn on that. But no, I would say the challenge there is more just the cleaning, because there's elements physically sitting in the boil kettle. Creates a little bit of a cleaning challenge, yeah.
Wow. And what was the company you said that made this? I just want to bring up a picture for this.
Yeah, it's Premier Stainless. They're out of San Diego. They're a pretty common brew house design. You know, they're all over the world. They've actually gotten pretty popular. They're a good workhorse system, and that was part of it for me, is working on Woody's system for a couple of years. You know, it had a few issues as anything that's, you know, that mechanical and electrically, you know, driven. I mean, there's going to be one or two little malfunctions here and there over years of the use, but it was really solid. Their customer support was good. And, you know, it was not the most expensive nor the cheapest, you know, sort of that, you know, middle road that you're looking for. And I also really like that it's sort of a hands-on system, you know, so.
Nice. So we had a few questions specifically with that kind of power draw. Do you expect, or do you want to go solar at some point? You know, I mean,
you know, being that Trinity County is all hydroelectric, and the electricity is so cheap that we haven't really looked at the numbers completely, but it would be probably a lifetime to ever make the payout. So I don't know that we will, just because the energy here is already so energy efficient, basically. Yeah.
That makes sense. And then the second question was, Matt said, tour sounds great. So are you guys, are you at the brew house right now?
I am. Yeah, I'm sitting in our office. I was gonna sit in the brew house and have the kettles behind me, since I thought that might be a decent backdrop other than like the junk on our shelves here in the office. But it was a little loud. We've got an open mic night going on, and the dish pit's not too far from the brew house for our brew pub and stuff. So,
nice.
But I could walk out there and take a little tour real quick. And
yeah, I mean, if you don't mind, so if we can we try to just go out there and, you know, like if you can like slowly pan on the brewing system, and then while you're doing that, any members who are in here, can you type into the chat if you guys have any specific questions for him? And then Neil, once you do, you know, kind of do like a slow pan, then go back to your office, and we can bring up some of those questions that we had.
Cool, sounds good. So I'm gonna turn the camera here. So we'll start with our grain mill, and grist bin is behind the ladder here, and a bunch of junk. I've been away for a few days, so I gotta do some cleaning. So forgive our mess, but
that's all right.
Here we go. So there's sort of the grist bin, and the mill sitting on top, and then this white auger here, or is an auger line that is controlled by the motor up top there, and then that drops the grain down into here. We've got the mash tun, or the hot liquor tank rather, below, like I was saying, the element in there, and then our mash tun up here. There's the false bottom. I don't know how well you all can see that. But then the general brew system, and boil kettle over here. And then we've got 4 7-barrel jacketed fermenters. And then over there is our cold room. And I'll just sort of walk you guys over there real quick. And it's going to get loud once we get in there, the fans and whatnot. But I'll just sort of show you here. Oh, something's in the way, sorry. So then we've got 4 bright tanks here, and we serve direct out of these good suckers. So hopefully maybe you saw some of that and it wasn't all total.
Yeah, no, it was all perfect. Yeah, that was great.
So
yeah, technology these days, man. I mean, just for us to be able to do this without physically having to be there is phenomenal for us, you know.
It's pretty crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's pretty
nice.
wild.
Awesome. Thanks for that. So, I mean, that's awesome that you guys have an auger system for your brew mill, like your grain mill. Like small breweries is like, that's one of the things that I feel like a lot of small breweries do not have and don't handle well, is their grain. So I mean,
Yeah.
what spurred that in you guys?
That was one thing. That was one thing. Working at Woody's and sort of having the firsthand experience, I guess, of them sort of figuring out their process, because none of them had ever run a professional brewery. Their brewmaster Pat had tons and tons of home brewing experience and had brewed here and there with other people at breweries, but had never run one himself. So there was sort of that jump. So I got to sort of help create a lot of those processes and look and sort of think about these things and what was the efficient way to do things. And when I looked at grain handling and especially going to other breweries, so for years, even before really the idea and the fruition of this whole thing beginning, just going to breweries, and same as all of you, you scope out breweries and you're wandering around and just seeing how they're put together and how things are laid out and the design and that sort of stuff. So was always thinking about that efficiency factor and how to handle things and what's the best way to move things and sort of where you can do that and not break your back. And so, to me, it is kind of strange that you see a lot of small breweries and they spend money on something, for instance, like the rake in the mash tun. And we opted for no rake in the mash tun. That was the equivalent essentially to me getting that the nice mill one with a grist bin such that I can mill the night before, have that sit overnight, and not have to have that built into my labor of the brew day. And then not only that, but the facilitation of then that getting into the mash tun. So I really looked at that and just it makes total sense to me. And to me, it's crazy that more breweries don't focus on that because just from a safety perspective, breaking your back, getting older issue, all those sorts of things, it's a key component to the brewery. And also, when you're on such a big scale too, not only is it all of those factors, but I think it really creates a better system for, repeatable and good quality mash-ins, by having that, that coming in, because the way our grain falls in from that auger, it's falling through a pipe down in, and then it's being hydrated at that same time before it even hits the mash tun and the water that's in the mash tun. It's already getting blasted with the water that's coming in to the mash tun to make up the grist. So that's one of the key components too that I really like is it's really helping with that and making sure you don't get clumps. And again, when you look at a brew system on this scale, so much of it is still hand done and sort of user automated, such that to me it didn't make sense to spend a ton of money on this nice say rake in the mash tun when I was going to sort of have to be up there still, and I still have like a blend valve to make sure our mash water is coming in at the temp I want, so that I hit the mash tun desired temp, and all those sorts of things. So you're still sort of up there and it's still very hands-on. So to me, it's like, why not just go all in, and stirring the mash. I figure it's the cost of, I think the rake on that thing was like, an extra 15 grand. And it's like, yeah, I can do that for a while.
Then a canoe paddles this much cheaper.
Yeah, right.
Nice. Well, hey, thanks for sharing that. I feel like that's a really valuable lesson for a lot of us,
Yeah.
So a question that Christina just posted here is regarding gluten-free beers. She said when visiting Woody's a couple of years ago, she remembers trying a gluten-free beer, and it was excellent. She's wondering how you do gluten-free beer and whether you have to have a separate system or what kind of process you have to go through, if any, to clean the same tanks for the gluten-free beer, and it's just the same fermentation, can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. And I'm certainly no expert on this subject. One of the owners at Woody's, Andrew, has celiac, so he can't really consume beer. So he was the driving force for that. He was really interested in experimenting with some of the gluten-free beers. So those are mostly his handiwork. But I will say, one of the things we really try to do is, just really clean the heck out of the system. And for the most part, those are brewed on a little 25-gallon more beer tippy dump system that they have. So most of those were done on that scale. So it was a little easier to make sure everything was cleaned and there was no residual grain and things in anything, you know. Excuse me, but it was the other thought of, you know, stuff that, you know, like he thought about that it kind of didn't even cross my mind was, you know, like white labs and I would assume, I guess most everybody's like liquid yeast is really grown typically on a malted barley solution, you know. So even that he kind of brought up. So we were using dried yeast, mangrove jacks, saf ale, some of those, trying those. I don't know what the word I should say is. I'll say I wasn't super impressed with many of those beers. So I'm happy to hear that you enjoyed the one that you had. And one of the things I'll just say to that note is, and I've been intrigued with experimenting and making one myself. I've actually tasted some pretty good gluten-free beers. And one of the things I think they were lacking at Woody's, I'll just say with the recipe development, was I think, you know, it's really difficult with ingredients that aren't barley to get the body in a beer. And so I think one of the things that I would focus on is really sort of getting a multi-layered grain bill, if you will. You know, at that time at Woody's, they were using almost 100% Eckhart's malted rice. He's a maltster out of Chico who just malts rice. He's also got celiacs, and so sort of went down that avenue. And he does some really great rice, but I just think it was creating too one-dimensional beers. And I think if you do some other stuff, and you know, when you look at some of the other companies that are making a lot of, you know, like volume of gluten-free beer, you know, they're typically using buckwheat and sorghum and, you know, some other things. So that's all I would say as far as the recipe development of me wanting to explore something like that. But yeah, I was just sort of trying to make sure things were really clean. And we also at Woody's, we were a little scared, so we never really, I think, used the true nomenclature of, you know, 100% gluten-free. That's where it gets tricky, right? Especially if you're going to package things and all that, you know, that gets a little iffy. But yeah.
Yeah, thanks for sharing, Neil. That's really insightful.
Yeah.
Does anyone else have any really specific questions from here? Feel free to unmute yourself. Yeah, go ahead, Pete.
I was going to make a comment. Neil, I thought that was interesting how you mentioned of doing the double batch.
Yeah.
And it occurred to me that would be a simple thing for a home brewer to do if they wanted to make, you know, if they have a 5-gallon system and they for something they wanted to do 10 gallons,
Mm-hmm.
you know, they could simply do that, just brew back to back.
Sure, you know, or the other thing that, you know, I was interested to learn, like, I don't know if you guys know Almanac Brewing down on Alameda Island. They're now next to Admiral Maltings, which if you get a chance, I would highly recommend all of you to go and take a tour. Really great folks. We use a lot of their malt. I really think they're making some superior malt over there and doing some good work. But back to sort of that point was Almanac. It was interesting. We did a tour over there. A crew here from the brewery went down, you know, and made a little trip, and we were going to Admiral as well, and we did tours of both. And it was interesting at Almanac. They sort of, I guess, ultimately their brew house, they decided it was a little undersized. So what they do, you know, is they've got larger fermenters than the brew system, and what they do then is they brew the highest gravity wort they can, so to speak, and then dilute down into a larger fermenter, you know, so they can, and you know, measure and mix in a known amount of water to get whatever volume they're trying to get to hit whatever gravity is for their beers. So that was an interesting idea too. They went, oh, okay, you know, so
nice. Yeah,
I'll second that on Admiral Maltings. It's well worth a visit there. It's pretty nice.
Really cool place.
Yeah, so Ben had a question. If you can, talk about some of the beers and styles that you really like to brew and what you hope to be specializing in, you know? Like your website's kind of sparse in terms of, you know, what beers you guys like to brew and what you hope to do. Don't worry about it, man. We can barely hear it, Neil.
Yeah, I am pretty driven to brew all sorts of styles. That's one of the things, being a beer lover and going to breweries for all the years I have. One of the things I've always really been either happily pleased or disappointed by is the either whatever direction it is, but the complexity and variety of a beer menu. So yeah, that's one thing I just always try to do, is have a wide variety of beers. So I've been often very impressed with different breweries, but sometimes you go there and it's 20 IPAs and they don't have a single brown ale or a single amber ale or a lager or something like that. There's so many beer styles have, I guess, sort of tricks that you can, think about it, right? With a big malty beer, for instance, there's a little bit more to hide behind, say, than, like a clean Pilsner or, a wheat ale or something, So same with IPAs, and I love IPAs, but I think there's sometimes they're a little overdone. And so that's something I try to pride myself on here, is having a very, pretty wide range of beers.
What are you drinking right now?
I'm drinking our Hayfork Hefeweizen. So it's a American Hefeweizen, real light, easy drinking. It's got the YOLO wheat from Admiral Maltings and a little bit of their Feldblum malts, and then American Hefeweizen yeast from White Labs, and just a scotch. It's just 10 IBUs. Real light, and then I didn't let the fermentation get too warm. I didn't want a whole ton of the banana clove, so just real light, easy drinking. We did a Oktoberfest here a couple weekends ago. We had some 32-ounce steins, so we needed something easy drinking. So 5.25% seemed plenty.
Nice. Yeah. Oh man, I do have to say, there's something about a really nice, easy, light drinker during the fall time. Oktoberfest is one of my favorites.
Yeah.
A wheat beer, for some of the people who hate on wheat beers, like, they'll still reach for something light. What else do you guys have in the fermenters right now, Neil?
Yeah. Yeah, we also did a Alttober, what we call an Alttober, so a German style alt amber ale for the Oktoberfest, for those folks that wanted the darker, yeah.
Nice. So did you guys use an alt yeast for that? A lager type yeast?
Yeah, so that was White Labs German alt ale yeast. Yeah, so I was really happy with that yeast. It came out super awesome. It's very, very lager-esque, just super clean and crisp. Even though it's got all this great bready, malty, rich, character to it.
Nice. So you guys have glycol jacketed fermenters, so you really can be doing these lagers. And it seems like, have you guys brewed like a true to style lager or a Pilsner,
I have not yet. That's on the horizon. It was just sort of a scramble this summer, getting going and trying to keep up, and the idea of a lager tying up a tank. So I've actually been scheming on the idea with with the darker, colder months here coming in, is a black lager, which is a great favorite style of mine as well.
Oh, that's rare for a lot of brewers. I personally love black lagers. It's a really hard beer to hit the balance right, So
yeah, for sure. It can be tricky, definitely.
Yeah. So you guys serve straight out of your bright tanks. So can you talk a little bit about that? Like, so you guys carbonate in these bright tanks. So you condition, carbonate, and serve out of these same bright tanks. So do you dump yeast after, you cold crash and like, what's that like?
Yeah. So before the beer heads over to the bright tanks, I'll typically do 2 yeast dumps, cold crash in the fermenter, let that go for, at least, a day or two. and then do the major yeast dump, and it depends. I do a lot of cone to cone pitch, repitching of yeast. I've got a yeast rink, so it sort of just depends what beer, what yeast, but let's say it's just a yeast I'm just basically going to dispose of. So crash, remove the yeast, and then typically I like to do that the day before I'm going to transfer to the bright tank to let it settle back out again. And then the way our fermenters are designed, I don't know how well you guys were able to see, but they're nice conical shape, and so we've got the yeast dump on the very bottom, and then a little bit higher up on the cone, we've got the racking arm that the dip tube that goes down in there that's slightly off at the bottom. So I'm able to do a pretty good yeast dump prior to transfer, and then like I said, I'll do that the day before, do the major one, and then do another little one right before transfer just to sort of clear that out, make sure I'm going to pull as clean a beer as I can, and then rack it over to the bright tanks and let it settle out there. And ultimately, at the end of cleaning those, there typically is a little bit of yeast, and that's where again, you talk about the process and sort of going back to the idea of having the malt handling side of things. That was another big thing I really took to heart with Woody's. They're really big on the bright tanks, and I really love them. I think they give the clarification of the beer, allows you to carbonate in a way that I think is unparalleled to dealing with a bunch of kegs. So I think it's a very versatile way. And when you look at the storage capacity of a bright tank versus kegs, of that surface area floor space is huge. I can fit the 7 barrels or whatever it ends up being on the finished end into that one bright tank that takes up the space of essentially 4 kegs, where there's no way I could stack the kegs high enough without killing somebody to store that same volume of beer. And just the clarity that it gives a beer, and I love seeing, especially IPAs, are the big ones, obviously, with the hops and so forth. Seeing that clarity improve over time is it's awesome. And I think it's unparalleled in doing things like in a uni tank. And, again, it's people have their own way, and that's sort of the cool thing about brewing, is everybody's got their own design and thought process. But I think, to me, the bright tank really harkens back to, again, that idea of secondary fermentation for home brewers or any brewers. That's sort of one of the major first steps I remember taking to improve the quality of my beer, right? It was, okay, we're going to buy sort of this carboy that's just going to sit there. We're not really going to ferment in it, but then when this one's done, we're going to transfer to there. So it's sort of, so it felt like a wasted piece of equipment at the time, but you realize later that it was making your beer exceptionally greater, and then in this case, it's not even a wasted piece of equipment. I get to let the beer set in there until I need the bright tank. So that's how ours works, is so the beer sits in that bright tank, and then we serve direct. And then certain beers I want to sit, I purposely will let them sit longer. Other beers don't necessarily need to sit as long, and so they don't. And then I keg them off, and then things go to serve to tap from the keg, and we sort of cycle through, and then I'll transfer the next batch over to the bright tank and sort of cycle things that way. So
Sweet.
Yeah.
Thank you. Hey, Pete, I know you had a really specific question regarding, botanicals and, some of the herbal aspects. Pete, go ahead and take it from here.
Yeah, Neil, I had noticed earlier that you had put out I believe it's a Saison with yarrow. Is that right?
Yeah, yarrow Saison, yeah.
So I was just wondering if you could talk a little bit about what it was like incorporating a local ingredient, and how much you had to use, and how you if you used it just like you do hops, or is there a different method of using that?
Sure. That's where I guess I'll just sort of preface or be honest with you. I'm sort of a much more of a feel brewer than I am a numbers brewer, if you will. So I've been interested in using botanicals for a while, and experimented a teeny bit, not really at Woody, it's just home brewing off and on, and using some lavender and different things. And then a couple of really great books. There's a Scratch Brewing Company, which is out of Illinois. I'm forgetting the names of the founders at the moment. Micah and anyways, Scratch Brewing Company. I've not even ever had any of their beers, so if anybody gets some and they want to share, they're not really distributed. But anyways, they are a highly foraged, ingredient-based brewery. So they actually ended up putting out a book about using different botanicals. So they have a really great book that they put out. Should see if it's probably on the shelf here behind me. I should see if I can find it real quick. But they put out a book that is really great. So check that out. And let me see. Oh,
Yeah, Scratch
No,
is
I'm
really
not seeing-
interesting because they almost all of their beers, they have like naturally foraged ingredients for them. And
Yeah.
they've got an estate brewery where a
From their
lot of it they
farm.
also grow there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so unfortunately, I'm not seeing that book at the moment. There's another one that I was going to recommend too, is Wild Brews, which is sort of another one more about yeast, but also talks a little bit about botanicals. So I'll just show that one there. But yeah, so anyways, yeah, they've written some great books, and then just reading some other articles. And so yeah, on that one, I had experimented and just sort of taken yarrow and was boiling it and seeing sort of what that component added, and then read what they wrote, and some other home brewers and different articles, and sort of just decided the best approach was to just go head on and go for it. So brewing a 7-barrel batch, I just kind of reading everybody's, what they had thought on measurements and ratios. I sort of tend to go the middle ground of what people say, in between things, and shoot that gap and figure that's probably hopefully not too much or too little, So I ended up, me and Buddy the brew dog there, we went out to the field here in Trinity County, and I ended up harvesting 6 gallons of yarrow, and just filled up the 6-gallon bucket, and felt like that was it, and sort of weighed it out and kind of went, yeah, okay. And I'd have to look at my notes what the weight ended up being, But, so I just clipped the flower heads off and decided this was probably good to go. So used a mesh bag and just hucked it in at the end of the boil. And I'll tell you, I freaked out when I did it. I was here brewing by myself on a Monday. The pub was closed. Nobody was here. And it smelled like a perfume factory immediately. I went, oh, shit, that was too much. Oh, crap. And tasted the wort at the end, after racking it over to the, knocking out to the fermenter, and kind of went, wow, yeah, that's a lot of botanicals going on. But we'll see, hope that, mellows out, and we'll just, yeah. And at that point, it is what it is, right? I couldn't take it back out, and having brewed that much wort, I figured, well, I'll just tuck the yeast in, and, but it didn't taste bad. It was just really, really intense, and it mellowed out very nicely. And I think it ended up being an amazing beer. It was one of those beers a lot of people were intimidated by. Most people are intimidated by Belgians in general. And then, yarrow too, they were going, what the, but those that liked it were like, wow, this is amazing.
Can you describe the flavor of yarrow? I mean, either Pete or Neil, like what does yarrow taste like? Try to equate that to something that we're familiar with, because I can't grasp it. I don't know what yarrow tastes like.
It's almost tea-like, I guess, in a way, but very kind of earthy, herbally, but slightly almost medicinally in sort of like a mint-esque sort of way. It's sort of a hard flavor to describe, really. Yeah.
Yeah. Ben said kind of like chamomile.
Yeah, it's similar to chamomile. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, I've tried to describe yarrow to people, and I can't. It's,
Yeah.
I think chamomile with a bite.
Yeah, and I had actually never had a yarrow beer before that, honestly. So.
Well, bravo to having that adventurous spirit, and going 7 barrels deep into a yarrow beer. Like, that takes balls, man.
It did,
6
definitely.
gallons
Like
of yarrow sounds like a lot. But
Yeah.
your experience, Neil, that my experience using different herbs is similar in that once it ferments out, it usually mellows pretty good.
Yeah.
That initial flavor is shocking, but yeah. So, thank you for that.
Yeah. Hey Neil, do you bottle anything for posterity? For when you have a really good batch of beer, do you ever, put some in a 22 and cap it for yourself, or like what's your strategy for,
I
posterity,
need
or
to get,
maybe like a vintage?
I know. I need to get better about that, actually. I've been slacking on that. We've been doing it a little bit with the cans. We've got a little can seamer, and so we've been doing some of that occasionally. But the problem is we all like to drink beer too much, and so then they don't tend to last too long, or a friend visits and then they get given away. So I have not been good about that at all. So I would like to get better about that. And, in the future, I want to do some bottle aged and bottle conditioned things and so forth. So I've got some whiskey barrels that I'm going to be brewing a imperial porter here the next couple of days, get that rested in, and that's the plan is for that to be a anniversary beer here in May. So
Nice. Yeah. So when did the first batch of beer come out of Trinity Brewing Company, that you were, legally able to sell?
yeah, it was strange, weird timing, and kind of worked out well. I had the Premier Stainless folks. They come back out, as I imagine most brew house companies do, and sort of help you commission the brewery, and help finalize putting the auger in place and all of that sort of stuff, and just sort of made sure things were working. There's a lot of electrical components, and so we brewed the first batches middle of March there, right to the tail end of March, and then right after that COVID hit and everything. So we sort of started to having to sit on the beer a teeny bit, not a ton. It wasn't like months or anything, but it was kind of like, okay, we're ready. And then we finally were able to open May 20th. So we had the beer ready by the middle of April, and then we started selling it the end of May. So
Wow. So you guys are within this calendar year of, the first beer, granted in probably the worst time for, social drinking,
Yeah, it was utter mayhem. I mean, I had 5 batches of beer. The original plan was to fill our sampler tray, fill the sampler flight and do that to open, that was my goal. And then, I had the 5 beers ready, and then everything sort of happened, and it was like, oh crap. So, ended up buying a October Designs can seamer and focusing on to-go beer, since that was the only option. So we spent hours and hours and hours canning. We opened the pub, and we were open, we crazily did Memorial Day weekend. And so we went through thousands of cans that weekend, just trying to sell beer, like a half a pallet of cans of all the different varieties we had. And then we would, after we closed the pub, we would spend 3 or 4 hours sitting here trying to can more cans to have something to sell so that we could justify being open, because we also are licensing. We have to have food and beer. We can't just sort of have one or the other. And yeah, so it's like, all right. So it's been a crazy time, but we've got amazing support. I mean, the fact that you guys are already hitting us up to be on here, and we've had a bunch of other folks loving the place and returning and purchasing beers, so we can't complain too much.
Nice. So what size cans were you guys putting through that seamer? Were they?
So the seamer, yeah, we could do 12-ounce and 16-ounce cans. We focused mostly on the 16s, and then we just finally got the tooling kit to go to 32-ounce, and we just got labels and everything. We're going to start offering crowlers on demand of all of our beers. Previously, we just had a few of the core beers that we had labels for, and everything else we would just do in growlers. So we've now got the labels to do the cans, so we're going to do that. So of course, we're messing with the machine the other day, and we're going, what the heck? And we call their tech support, and they had sent us the wrong part, right? So it's like, okay.
Oh man, I can't believe that you guys are doing this one by one.
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's tedious, yeah. So that's where, we've looked at some canning machines, but they're expensive, and we as any brewery does, you start out with a lot of debt. So it's just take it easy. The canning thing was never originally supposed to be our main focus. It's sort of just become that due to the current status of things. But originally our focus was trying to create sort of a destination brewery that people wanted to come and visit and stop at, and have a beer garden, and that aspect of things. So
Yeah. So what's that like? Do you guys have like a nice outdoor patio area? And
we do, yeah. We've got
is it
a really
snowproof?
big. Not yet. No. We were dreaming of trying to get that done this winter, and again, we just don't quite have the cash to make that happen yet. So we figured we'll focus on buying grain and hops and continue to make beer, right? So we've got a really nice big patio out there, and then a gravel area that's beyond the patio, and then we've got sort of stepped up from that another large area that we're hoping to develop this next year and get more picnic tables and so forth. So
Nice. Yeah. So I'm just looking at it on Google Maps. So you guys have that giant like gravel parking lot in the front. I mean, this is probably a really old picture. You guys have probably done something, but you guys have a big backyard area.
we do, yeah. We've got a huge back space, so we sort of just built a fence in the last couple of weeks here. One, to keep Buddy the brew house dog out of trouble, and also we were mainly people. We were having tons of people, and some of them were the curious brewer folks, but more so was kids and unattended drunk adults, right? They were trying to wander into the brew house, and it's just it's not a child-proof area. We've got a forklift and things, and there's just too much going on. So anyways, built a fence. So we kind of got that separated so that we can start working on developing that area. And then one of my sort of dreams is to ultimately, behind the brew house here now in the sort of the fenced off area, is to brew what I've already dubbed the funk barn.
Yeah.
So
Talk more about this
ultimate...
just for a few more minutes. I don't want to drag this on too long.
Totally.
What do you
Yeah,
guys say? Like
ramble,
5 minutes or so? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So my goal is, we've already gotten to the point where a little more just general warehouse storage would be awesome. Breweries always run out of cold storage, so more cold storage would be great too already. Since we've got the kitchen, so we have kitchen goods and the beer in the current one. So if we could free up a little space there, so that, and the ultimate impetus is I love sour and mixed culture fermented beers. It's something I've experimented with for years on the homebrew scale. I love Brettanomyces and Brett beers, and that's a big thing with me, is the bottle conditioning. Getting back to that, I think certain beers, Belgian beers, some barrel aged beers, things like that, and then anything like Brett and mixed fermentation, I think just really those flavors can really shine through with bottle conditioning. So I know many homebrewers hate on the bottle conditioning because it's a lot of work, and kegging seems better and easier. But if you can learn to bottle condition well too, I think it's a good skill to have. So I would love to build a funk barn back there. My dream is to have a cool ship, couple of floaters, and a couple of bright tanks back there, and just do some bottling and some different stuff. So I've been scheming on working on looking at just starting to figure out the numbers on it, but I haven't even started to delve into it. But it's definitely in the back of my mind.
That's awesome to hear. I feel like most of the breweries in the Tri-County area, Humboldt, Mendocino, Trinity, do not do, well, Del Norte, I guess we'll include those people too. I feel like they're just standard breweries, and I feel like the potential for that wild factor, that funk, is just severely untapped. And Redwood Curtain, despite their forays into it, they're really restrained, and I feel like they're kind of scared of it, where it is
a little scary.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's definitely scary, which I understand the want to do it in a separate little shed or a funk barn in the back.
Yeah, so that's where it'd be perfect. We brew the wort over here, you know, and then pump and transfer over to there, and then keep everything over on that side and process and, you know, and ferment and all that over that side. So it would
Yeah,
be sort of an
that's
ideal
super
situation.
exciting. I'm excited for you guys.
Yeah, I'm
Thanks,
do you,
looking forward to all of that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Do you guys
So
have any
that'll be a couple
plans
years out, I'm sure.
to get a keg out here to the coast?
Yeah,
I
you know,
mean,
actually,
what can
Six
we do to
Rivers.
make this happen?
Yeah, you know, when we first opened, we had a keg go over to Tom from Humboldt Cider. He took a keg over there, and they had a tap of ours. And then Six Rivers has actually hit us up, and we've just kind of been slacking, and we need to get over there. As we also talked to Dead Reckoning and a few folks, and they said they'd be interested in getting some beers on. So we just need to get on it.
I'll
And
talk
it's
to
just
Theo.
Yeah.
What's that?
Yeah. So he
I'll
said,
talk to Theo.
yeah, well,
Okay.
we will
Yeah,
talk
it's
to
just-
I'll twist his
Theo at
arm.
Dead Reckoning.
There you go. Yeah, and it's just been strange times, you know, with everybody too. So many places are not selling much beer, so a lot of places aren't buying a whole lot of beer, right? You know, so it's tricky.
Yeah, dang. Well, shit. We should have made that happen for this month. So usually what we do
Yeah,
for our Q&As is we usually invite the brewers to tell us their favorite beer, and we'll go out and buy it and
Okay.
sip along while we talk about it, and talk
Gotcha.
about how it came to formation. But
Yeah. Okay. Well,
yeah,
I guess
so,
you just
I mean-
have to have me back another time.
oh darn. Yeah, I mean, it's not like pulling teeth for you.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, please let us know as soon as you know when or how you can get a keg of any of your beers out here. Shoot the club an email, and we'll broadcast
Yeah.
it. We'd
Cool.
love to taste
Appreciate
the
it. Yeah,
beers.
we'll do. Yeah, we need to get on that. It's been a little hectic times. I've got some family stuff I'm dealing with, so that's pulling me a little ways time wise. So, but yeah, so yeah, we're excited. There's some great places out on the coast, and it'd be a great excuse for us to get over there. We're always stuck here. You know, my dog is probably out there trying to give me dirty looks through the door, going, "Let's go home already, Dad."
Cool. Well, hey, before we let you go, any last questions before we let Neil from Trinity County Brewing Company? Ben commented, artisanal hand canned. You guys
Yes,
have the
there you
niche
go.
on
Yeah,
that
one at a time. We're thinking about taking the tinning classes, and we'll just hand pewter them, right?
Oh my
That would be
God.
the copper a takeaway, real gift there, yeah.
Yeah,
So.
we haven't seen a wax dipped can yet.
No, that would be fun. That's a great idea. Thank you for that idea. I love that. We should do that. Yeah. We've talked about wax dipped bottles, but the can, I love the idea already. It's gonna happen now. You've planted a seed. Me and Jake, the other owner, we've got a great sense of humor and love doing things that are off par, I guess we will. So yeah, we've got a can
Dip
release.
the bottom.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, just the bottom. Yeah. We got a release coming out next week, the AFU IPA. So it's a American Freedom Units IPA. So it's for Veterans Day. That'll be getting released here this next week. A little special can release. So keep an eye out. Maybe we can get that over to the coast for y'all.
Nice. Yeah. And Neil, if you want us to, push Theo to get even a 6-pack or a 12-pack, let us know, because,
Yeah, no, they seemed like they were into it. It's mainly been on our end. We've been slacking.
That's all right. We understand. Everyone's got busy lives and everything's kind of thrown into disarray these days.
Yep. Yeah, and once things get back to normal a little bit too, I'd love to remember when I was homebrewing, there was a brewery back in the day. I actually didn't get to go to the event, but I thought it was such a great idea. It was to get homebrewers involved and brew a standard wort, whatever it ended up being, probably an IPA or something like that. It gives a little more flexibility and fun, but invite a bunch of homebrewers, you guys from the coast, Reading. There's a pretty good scene here. There's not a club yet, but there's a pretty good scene here in Trinity County. Get you all together and let you, take some wort home, and then, try to meet back up and taste what everybody did with it, with their yeast and hop combo,
Yeah. Hey, we're into it. We are into it now.
Yeah, it sounds like fun.
Yeah. Cool. Well, let's make it happen next year, huh?
Hey,
Yeah,
Neil.
sounds good. What we're hoping to do, is kind of we were in talks last year with Lost Coast Brewing to do like a homebrewer festival where it's not like necessarily Humboldt Homebrewers, but you know, a communal wort festival where we all like do the same wort, but then we all have different beers coming out of it. And we're talking about that with Lost Coast, and they were into it, and they're like, yeah, how do we get more breweries involved in that, you know? So
That'd be cool.
we'll keep you guys in tune for that. Hopefully we'll be talking to what's their name, Jippo Ale Mill. Jippo did a wet hop festival where they flew in hops, fresh hops, because their brewery is like right on the airstrip down there on Lost Coast. And so they were into it. They got a few breweries in to do that. We're fully ingrained in the community, and we'd love to bring you into the fold. Well,
Thanks.
Neil,
Appreciate it.
thanks for coming in and troubleshooting your issues with us and sticking with it. And unless there's anything else from anyone in the membership here.
I want to say something that
go ahead.
To Neil, you know, like I spend a lot of time up in Bend, Oregon, and like most of the really great brewers there, they're all home brewers. And you know, now they've got, I don't know if anybody, the people that have Boneyard and Sun River Brew, all these people, they're all home brewers. They'd make beer. Like this one guy, Brett, he'd make it, he'd throw it away. And I mean, it's really interesting. Most of the people that I know that have small, you know, microbrews, they were all home brewers. And
Yeah, like I said, it seems crazy not to have been first.
yeah.
You'd be surprised.
Yeah, right. And I think it's just, you know, that's if you're passionate about it, that's how you get into it, right? You know, you start home brewing.
Yeah.
That's the truth.
Because you can make some damn good home brew. You know, better fancy equipment doesn't necessarily just make your beer instantly better if you don't know how to brew still, right?
Well, I'm going to add one more thing. I don't know if you've heard of Sun River Brewery, but they're a very good brewery. They've done very well. And he came to speak to our brew club up there, and he said, you know, you guys, you can make the best beer, and this is for all of us. You know, you can make the absolute best beer. You don't have to buy a ton of hops. You don't have to buy a ton of grain. You know, you can mix and match, and it just gives you more creativity. And I think that's always something to remember, you know. You know, it's easier to screw up 5 gallons than it is 217 or, you know, 7 barrel.
Yeah, definitely. Experiment.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. And I mean, to me, when this is when I just started out, I thought this is just an invaluable lesson, and, you know, just go for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you for coming this evening.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Neil.
Thanks so much, Neil, and glad things worked out for the brewery in this crazy year.
Too. It's been a whirlwind, that's for sure.
All right, Neil.
Well, thanks so much, guys. You all have a great night.
Yeah.
And anytime you all come by the brewery, hopefully y'all do, please feel free to ask for me, and hopefully I'm here and I'll show you around.
Sounds great.
Christine and I will be over as soon as we can, you know, get out of COVID situation.
Yeah, right. Yeah, totally.
We'll all be there.
Yeah. So
Awesome.
just for everyone, just as you're coming down the hill into Weaverville, right after the jail, it's on the left-hand side, the north side of 299.
Yep.
It's right there. There's no mistaking it. Giant words inside of the building.
Yep.
Yeah, I almost came by yesterday because I went up Canyon Creek on Tuesday.
Oh, okay.
And yesterday when I got back down to 299, I'm like, I almost turned left. I'm like, no, I got to get back home. But one of these days we'll get over there.
Yeah, definitely. We're right on, guys. Cheers. Y'all have a great evening.
Yeah, cheers, Neil.
Thanks.
Have a great night.
Likewise. See you guys. Thanks again
Yeah.
for having me. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
All right, guys and gals and all of us in between. That was great. I'm really stoked that we could have pro brewers in here, and thank you, Pete, for helping to organize that. Greatly appreciated. I'm hoping next month we can get someone else in here. Shooting for either Jippo or Drake. I mean, I'm not holding my breath for Drake, at Rubber Curtain. It's been 4 months in the making, and he keeps, oh yeah, we'll see, but we shall see. It sounds like Jippo's pretty into it. I just wasn't sure about them making it this month, so Neil was on it, so we locked him in for it. It sounds like Jippo Ale Mill will be for next month. I'll start talking to them now in terms of, if we can get a keg of their beer around here, or if they know if they're distributing it, so we can taste it for our commercial calibration next month. Yeah. So any input from that? Where do you guys want to see it next month? What can we improve upon for that?
It's good that people typed in questions that got answered. It felt more collaborative in terms of interview. I didn't have any questions to contribute, but it was good to see other people's questions. Not that Chris is not an excellent interviewer. It's just good to have more people participating.
Yeah,
I agree.
Maybe some questions in advance.
Yeah, I
Maybe.
mean, questions in advance. I mean, the 2 times we tried that, it was kind of lacking. But I mean, yeah, we can try. We can definitely try. What did you guys really like about that interview? What should we carry on for the next one? For the Q&A. Other than how did you get started? What are you guys doing now?
I like the tour of the brewery. That was cool.
Right. I feel like that's gonna be kind of rare.
Yeah.
I mean, the styles they like to brew. That's always good to know. And
I don't feel like we really got an answer from that though.
I mean, he didn't really get
All over
anything
the
because
place.
he was like,
I'm just gonna brew different varieties.
They're just like,
I mean,
we're
he
gonna
doesn't
brew
wanna
this,
give
and we're
it
gonna brew
away.
that, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, now we're just gonna brew all these other things. They don't really have any consistent brews other than inconsistencies.
Yeah,
Which is
I mean,
cool.
hey, homebrewers, that's how we roll.
Oh no,
brew on a
I'm not
whim, right?
complaining. Not
Yeah.
complaining. I think breweries should do that more often. Experiment. Go
Yeah.
outside of their boundaries.
I was really excited to hear that he wanted to do a little funk barn in the back, or a funk shed,
Yeah.
Much better than a she shed.
Christina said it. Oh man. Well, hey Hans, do we have any progress on the beer bag giveaway?
Yeah, so we're going to be ready this weekend.
Show him the beer bag.
Oh, the beer bag. So Kenny, hold on, let me reach. Put these together.
Holy shit. What?
Yeah, so each bag is vacuum sealed. Thank you, Kenny, by the way, for doing this. It's amazing. He vacuum sealed to make sure to keep all that freshness inside.
Kenny, you went above and beyond, man.
He really did. So I have Kenny and Caitlin already have theirs. Christina has hers. I have mine. I just have to separate the hops. So I pulled up the hops bag. I was taking a look at it. We've got a bunch of 1 ounce bags. Now
Okay.
I know we talked about when we were going to do this, we're going to do, I think we said 2 ounces of hops, or are we going to stick with
standard one?
of a standard one?
I think it depends on how many people were involved and how much we had
Okay.
on hand.
I think what might end up happening, because based on what we have, it might be easier because we got a bunch of random hops that are 1 ounce bags. So if we all did like a 5-gallon batch, 1 ounces plus the dark plus whatever else. So I think everyone's going to get at least 1 ounce of hops, and it's going to be randomized. So what you get is what you get. And then I think when it comes down to it, I'm going to have Chris pick a random number for myself, so I'm not picking my hops.
7.
But other than that, I mean, yeah, I think I'll do a shout out on Facebook. I'm going to do an email out to everybody probably Friday night. I got to do a big, yeah, I got to do a big move tomorrow for work. My whole department's moving again. So I got to wake up at the crack of dawn and move them.
But does that mean you get windows?
No, no, not really. I get more problems. So I'm going to shoot out a message to everybody saying, if you want your bag, come and get it. I'll give them my address because I'm not going anywhere this weekend or last weekend or the weekend before that or the weekend before that or any weekend.
Yeah, nice. And I do have to warn anyone who is in here who has not been to Hans's house. The driveway comes up relatively abrupt, and if Google Maps tells you where to go, just be prepared to turn right before Google tells you.
It's right between N and O. There's a
Yeah.
reason.
Yeah, I'll send pictures.
Right between no.
Yep.
No, right between no. Yeah, we're just trying to come up with a name for it. We're thinking fermented under COVID conditions.
That's dated.
I feel depressed her.
Yeah.
Nice. So Hans, just to clarify, we'll be picking up ingredients from your house, right? And
Yes.
then it'll be zero encounter kind of thing. So you'll just have it out in a box in the carport.
Zero encounter, or if you want,
We can drop it off if it's a hardship for.
yeah, if it's a real hardship, we can drop it
We'll have
off.
to do that over the weekend.
And might come with a brew of mine or so.
Aw, you guys.
If nothing else, if people can't coordinate, as long as it's not alcohol, it can be the shop can be a pickup point as well.
Not alcohol yet. And hopefully people are going to need more ingredients than just what we give them.
They're gonna need more ingredients for sure.
I mean, this is all specialty malts, right?
Yeah, this is just a specialty malt and hops.
I would hope you do.
Yeah.
Get a half gallon of that.
Yeah. All right. And so that is great. Hans, how do you want to coincide? So will you send an email out to everyone once you've got that?
I've got a list of all the names, so I'm gonna shoot in a personal message out to everybody on Friday.
Cool. All right. So we already called last call for that. So anyone who hasn't responded, sorry, you missed your 2.5 week chance. I don't feel bad for you.
Yeah. And I'm not gonna submit a bill to the group for the cost of the grains.
What? Hans, Christina, you guys. Too nice. All right. Well, wow. Thank you guys.
How many people signed up?
Well,
No?
We have 8.
8? Cool.
the beer bag giveaway, we're gonna call the under COVID conditions. I think I like that name. Please try to remember to bottle. How many bottles do you think we should, save to swap? 3?
Well, we need one for everybody. So what? I guess that's 7.
Well, 8.
8?
Well,
No,
yeah,
7, because one of your own.
Yeah.
But theoretically, so 7 bottles, just one, a 6-pack plus 1.
6-pack plus 1. Okay, so just remember to include that in the email that if you're brewing this, please try to save 7 to,
Reserve 7 for everyone.
Yeah, and we'll come up with the review if you want it,
Yeah.
Because we had talked about, if you're brewing this, if you would like to get a feedback sheet regarding your beer and also a ranked choice, if I'm remembering correctly. So, of the 7 that you're drinking, rate them by either the number, the color. I don't know how we're going to do this. I say we just give them a number.
Yeah.
I
Well,
thought we had talked about including enough for everybody who brewed plus yourself so that you got a randomized backpack, including your beer.
Yep.
So wouldn't that be
Yep.
8 bottles? I thought he said there was 8
Yeah,
brewers.
8 people, so but one of your own is one of the 8.
Yeah, but being
Oh, okay. So
So if you
8
turn it in and
beers
it
is
gets
what you need to
randomized
return?
with the others,
Ah, okay.
so then you're tasting your own, but you might not know it.
Okay. So 8 is what we
8
need to
beers.
bottle. Okay. Sounds good. Okay, cool. So write that down, Hans. I'm recording it. I will upload this recording. It takes forever to for Zoom to like digitize the recording after it's done. Half the time I can't even upload it the same night. Kinda
That's okay.
frustrating.
But yeah, if you can upload it, I'd like to include that link within my notes.
Okay.
I didn't send
Will
out
do.
last month's notes because I'm an idiot.
Well, and because I don't think I uploaded it to YouTube yet.
That's
Sorry.
fine. That's fine. But I would like to start including that in my meeting notes from here on
Okay.
out.
Sounds good. All right. Well, that's the beer bag giveaway. We are an AHA sanctioned club. Oh my gosh, I didn't ever think that we would reach this. I honestly had no idea until John Moorhead from the American Homebrewers Association reached out to us and said, congratulations, you are an AHA club. Enough of our members are AHA members, therefore we got reimbursed for our club insurance, which is like 60 to 70 bucks. Good job, everybody. Woo! That's great. That is phenomenal. I have to say thank you to everyone who is enrolled in the AHA. I hope you are reading Zymergy magazine, whether you did physically or digitally. It is an enormous resource for brewing knowledge and recipes. If you don't have the app, the Zymergy app, I highly recommend it because you can search specifically for the recipe that you want to brew. It is amazing. The Brew Guru app is also great for recipes. I know I find myself kind of stalemated on some of my recipe creation sometimes, and I like to, read through 4 to 6 to 10 different recipes to, pull what I want from them and, draw some inspiration. Yeah, go ahead, Kenny.
Since we're an AHA club, I don't know if anybody is pledged to brew for a Saturday Learn to Homebrew Day.
Yes, yeah, go ahead and take it from here. I was planning on talking about Learn to Homebrew Day. Go ahead.
I know that they put out an official recipe. I haven't officially pledged, but I'll probably end up brewing. Is anybody else going to brew?
I unfortunately cannot. I will be tiling and refinishing my floors.
I might be brewing that day because I need to start working on the beer for fermented under COVID conditions.
Yeah, is anyone brewing this weekend? Raise your hand or wave wildly if you're going to be brewing this weekend. Maybe. Wow, those were some unenthusiastic wavings.
It's gonna be cold this weekend.
Yeah, we're supposed to get a really good cold snap, some moisture moving in.
That just means the work chiller will be running cold.
Yeah, there we go. Quick knockout.
Crabbing season opens up. We can make a crab beer this Saturday.
Did you say crab beer?
That is correct, sir. I said crab beer.
I just want to be clear on
beer,
that.
but I have not had crab beer.
Maybe I'll make a crab beer.
No.
Crab stout.
Crab stout.
Have you had the oyster beer?
I'm gonna make a crabby
Hog
stout.
Island.
It's gonna be delish.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, we don't get to do Strange Brew this year. I shed a tear when we didn't get to do Strange Beer. I was very sad. Usually that is one of my highlights of the fall season.
That is my favorite.
Oh, man. Has anyone been over to the boardroom recently? No? Yeah, Chrissy. No?
Kenny?
They had an Oktoberfest kind of deal.
Yeah, I got that.
What was it? Tell me about it. Come on, let's plug those local establishments.
I wish I could share the photos. We got 2 gigantic sausages that hung off the plate. It was super obscene. And then I got 4 German beers. They just had like Doppelbocks, and I got whatever dark they had, obviously. And they had homemade sauerkraut and pretzels from Frankie's Bagels. Those were amazing. I haven't had Frankie's Bagels, but if they're like those pretzels, holy shit. And they had spicy mustard. I got a brie plate with it. We each could only eat like that much of our sausage and had it for 3 nights. It was so good. It was so good.
Are they still doing that, Chrissy?
I think it was just that one weekend,
Oh.
2 weeks ago.
That's awesome that you get to go.
I think they still have some of the sausages for sale though, and I saw they had some cheddar wursts, which I did not have. I wish I had known those existed because I would have added those on to my order. But they still have sausages they're selling this weekend, just not the pretzels or anything.
Damn. Yeah, I do have to give 2 big thumbs up to the boardroom and also Frankie's New York Bagels. Frankie, I've known Frankie for almost like 6 years, and they've always done some really good crap. What are they called when you wrap a dog in a pretzel dogs? Oh my gosh. I mean, if you've ever been a fan of like the frozen junk food that you can throw in the oven and have later, pretzel dogs, man, they hit the spot real good. But yeah, thanks for sharing that, Chrissy. Yeah, the boardroom. Sunny. The reason I brought that up is Sunny, is the founder and coordinator of Strange Brew, and they're out at Redwood Acres, and they've always been a great supporter of the homebrew community and bringing us into the fold. All right, well, shoot, what was I talking about other than great things? AHA Club, the guest pro brewer Q&A.
I opened this just so I could
rub it in our faces,
Chrissy
Pete.
jealous. I want to make Chrissy jealous. The Cellar Reserve, 4 years old.
That's a John Barleycorn?
Yeah, the John Barleycorn 2016 Cellar Reserve. One of the bottles I got, they had a 6-pack last year when they did the fundraiser for all the fires.
Nice.
I
Chrissy
got
said
the 6-pack of Cellar
it
Reserve.
sounds like she's going to go rifling around in her cellar that her dad never drinks. Ah, there we go.
2015. Boom.
Oh!
16? All right.
15.
Oh, the 15. Well, I could pull out a 13.
Oh!
Whoa, guys! Let's not go cellar measuring here.
Drop.
Chrissy went back.
But speaking of cellar measuring, I'm curious, did anybody go out and get a Bock, a Doppelbock, a Maibach, an Eisbach, a Weissebach? I went and I called Theo up and I said, what do you have for Bock beers? And he said he had a Weissbach. And I couldn't wait. I feel really bad because I drank the shit out of that. It was so good, straight from Germany. I feel really bad because I went and bought that. All right, Chrissy, go ahead.
This is just a 2014, but I have this one also. And I think 3 2016s.
Oh, man. All of you with your cellars. Your cellars. My cellar is like what I don't drink of the 12-pack that week. You guys.
Sorry.
You're so restrained and dignified. Well, okay, so no one really went out and bought a Bock beer? I know, I feel bad. I didn't send out the email until like Tuesday.
Yeah, we might have got it if we had the weekend or something, but can't do it with that short of notice.
I'm sorry. I blame Talvi, and Talvi said, sorry, I can't make it. I got called into work. But I mean, she's helping with the democratic process. I'm all behind her. You know, she's a poll coordinator, and she got called in to work that today. So sorry, but next month will be better. Dang it. Well, if none of you bought Bach beers, whatever, I guess I'm just gonna drink my Celebrator without you. But I do want to talk about garage loggers and, you know, loggers in general, you know. Kenny, were you about to say something?
I was just going to ask if anybody's heard of an Italian Pilsner.
Yes, only because I listen to podcasts and keep abreast of blogs.
I've only seen it on the Redwood Curtain board.
Oh, what? Redwood Curtain had an Italian Pilsner? How recent was that?
Still have it, I think.
It's still on as far as I know. We had some the other night.
Nice. Go ahead and talk about it, Kenny.
So little quick short background. National competition got canceled. National bottle competition got canceled. I sent some beers in. They got judged anyway by Club Doe's. And I think I posted I got first in category for my old ale. As a result, normally I would go to national competition, but that's not happening. So what Club Doe's did is they've offered a separate private competition for the first place in category. The winner gets to brew with Bear Bottle Brewing in San Francisco. Choice of 2 categories. One is West Coast IPA and one is Italian Pilsner. So I am actually currently in diacetyl rest of my Italian Pilsner. Cool. And I was just wondering if anybody else had any experience with this type of style. We tried Redwood Curtains. If folks aren't familiar with the style, think of like German Pilsner, but dry hopped with noble hops such as like Saaz, Tettnang, Hallertau, Saphir, Harrisbrucker, stuff like that. We tried Redwood Curtains and it was a good Pilsner. We didn't get the dry hop on it. So I'm just wondering if anybody else has had experience with that style.
So I do have to say, the 3 times I've brewed a Pilsner, apparently I've brewed Italian Pilsners. Every time I brew a Pilsner, I always dry hop with Hallertau Hersbrucker because it is bright green and it is so candy-like. It is an otherworldly hop that I mean, I picked this up from Jeff Finn, who, you know, is at Lost Coast. He turned me on to the Hallertau Hersbrucker. And after he shared a beer with me that was dry hopped with it, I was like, what the hell did you do? You know, it's phenomenal to dry hop with this beer, which is so, I don't know, it's pungent, it's, you know, candy-like, it's, I don't know how else to describe it, but the Hersbrucker, you know, specific hop I've had great success with. And the hop, when you're done with it, when you pull it out of the keg or out of your secondary, it is otherworldly. It is bright green still. It is unlike any other hop that I've dry hopped with. So I can highly recommend that hop, you know, and it will, I feel like it has set every Pilsner I've ever brewed so far apart from any other, you know, garage lager that I've done. So
Chris, when you dry hop with that, do you use pellets or?
Yeah, I've always used pellets. Yeah, I've always used pellets. I don't really like to do whole cone just because they float and they take up so much more space and soak up a lot more moisture, personally. But yeah, every single time I've used it, I've used pellets. I don't know that I've ever tried to source whole cone hops of that. So it might be pretty difficult considering it's an imported hop too. Like it's strictly imported. So Kenny, you are in your D-rest for it. You haven't dry hopped yet.
No. So the plan is I did pearl for bittering because I had some old freezer pearl that was just needed to go. So I used pearl for bittering, but I essentially for at 30, 10, and flame out / hop stand / whirlpool, I added this mix of equal parts of Tettnang, Mittelfra, Hallertau Mittelfra, Saphir, Hersbrucker, and I can't remember the fifth one, but it's got all of those at different intervals. So I just kind of did something different. This is the first time I've done this style. I'm gonna diacetyl rest it now, transfer it to a keg, lager it in a keg, and then dry hop in the keg, which is going to be a tough one, a couple of days before packaging. And so I'm not quite sure. I haven't figured out logistics on how to do that yet. But
yeah. Do you mind if I give you a little advice on
Sure.
keg hopping? Just because that's really close to my heart, and I feel largely most of my beers are keg hopped. So usually what I will do for my keg hopping is I'll use one of those little torpedo, like mesh torpedo things that has the screw on tops, but I will use a hop bag on the top because they've got bigger holes. I don't know why the hell they've got bigger holes on the top, but using one of those, I will toss, whatever amount you want in there. The higher the amount, the longer it needs to rest before you bottle it. But usually I will leave it about, the high 50s, low 60s to dry hop it. And then after that point, I will open it back up. So it'll be pressurized during this whole time. I'll open it back up, pull it out, and then you throw your finings in. Gelatin is usually what I use to fine it, and then bottle it from there after 3 days. So, but I mean, usually I'll throw it in the fridge after that.
Right on. Yeah. And now's a great time to start doing lagers in the garage because it's close to start getting real cold right now, especially at nighttime. So.
Yeah. I just last week, 2 weeks ago, I tried using my my Quake yeast, the Quake King from Imperial. I tried doing that in my garage, and my garage is sitting at a mid 50s right now over the last 2 weeks. So I had to stick a heating pad on that because it was just hanging out, barely bubbling after 3 days. And usually it's completed its fermentation in 3 days. I mean, at least during the summertime. So tossed the heating pad on that, finished up real quick after I kicked the heating pad on. But garage lagers are the thing to be doing right now. You don't need to be doing hybrid yeast right now. If you're fermenting in the 50s, low 50s, which is what most of our garages are, unless you've got like direct sun all day, those poor south-facing giant windowed garages. But yeah, but that's why I wanted to do Bock beers. I can't. Am I the only one who bought a Bock beer? Probably. I love Bock beers. The depth of flavor that you can get with a Bock beer is, in my opinion, kind of unparalleled, other than a Baltic porter. And I feel like there are not enough Baltic porters around here. Baltic porters and and Bock beers in general are some of the more, really full of depth and flavor lagers that you can get around here yourself. But with it being a lager, I highly recommend starting it in November. I mean, we had a weird ass November. We had like 70-degree days in November. That will fuck up your lager in your garage.
You mean October?
October. Thank you, Ben, for correcting me on what month it was.
What?
Yeah, we had a messed up October. I don't know what month it is. Is this still 2020? Ay, Dios mío. Shoot. Yeah, so I've got to say, I usually around this time I'm doing my Oktoberfest. I have now moved to the WB 3470, the hybrid yeast for my Oktoberfest because it can handle those rare 60-degree days in the garage. But now is the time to be doing those strict, lager yeasts because you can toss them in your garage and they're good to go. They're good to go. If you've ever been lager curious, now is the time. So I do have to say, lagers, they're also a really cool yeast to try to save because they are top cropping. If you've never tried to scoop the yeast off of the top of a fermentation, give it a shot because lagers inevitably will take a long time to ferment because they're top cropping and because it's colder. And as the holidays roll on by, you won't really want to be paying attention to your fermentation. So letting it go slow and low, will benefit you. So those garage lagers are ideal right now. And when you try to scoop off that yeast on the top to just roll into your next fermentation, you're kind of expecting a low and slow fermentation already. So if you try to scoop off all of the krausen from your, first 2 weeks, the first week, you barely show any activity. The second week, you finally have a nice thick krausen on the top, scoop it off, save it, throw it under some Coors Light or whatever light beer you have, save it for your next one, you're good to go. I highly recommend trying it if you want to be cheap, if you want to be pinching pennies, if you are adventurous. I do have to say it is adventurous of anyone who tries to save yeast and pitch it on top of their next $20 to $30 batch of beer. But it does pay off 9 out of 10 times for me. Whatever you do might be different, But yeah, that's it from my proselytizing of garage lagers. What's anyone else brewing? Oh, Kenny, I want to hear about your cluster hopped beer because I had seen the story of those cluster hops dabbling around the interwebs. I believe you got these from Ginny and Neil, right?
Yeah. So they had they've just got a small little yard here in McKinleyville where they were able to source some of these rhizomes a couple of years ago from some fella that came down off the hills that had harvested these wild grown hops out of Whittier. And I think I had attached a link to the original story from Sierra Nevada. But ended up being cluster hops. I didn't know that when I was brewing with them, so ended up I brewed a very light blonde, and essentially just did a little bit of these hops at, I think it was like 1.5 ounces for a 10-gallon batch at 30, 1.5 ounces at 10, and then I think it was something like 8 ounces at least at flame out. / whirlpool.
Wait, so these were still wet, right? You didn't dehydrate them.
Yeah.
So how many ounces at flame out?
I lost count. I think it was at least 6 ounces. It was somewhere between 6 and 8 ounces at flame out, which the rough equivalent is 1 ounce of dried hops is about 5 to 6 ounces of wet hops.
Nice.
So I didn't know what these were, and so I just kind of wanted to figure out and showcase the flavor and aroma characteristics of it. It wasn't until after I brewed with them that I found out that they were clustered. I think I gave a bottle to Hans and Christina when Hans came and picked up the grains yesterday. Christina, you said you tried it. What did you think?
I think they're dealing with a situation right now. Yeah, okay, Christina, we can hear you. Go ahead and just talk. Now,
Echo. So I thought it was great. Yeah, Han said that it was an IPA, and it definitely, to me, doesn't feel like an IPA. Doesn't taste like an IPA. It's not super bittering. It's like crazy floral, though. I mean, like beautiful on the nose. So I think you hit the nail on the head. It's a gorgeous beer. So well done, Kenny, and thanks for sharing it with me. Well, us, but Hans isn't gonna drink it, so.
So there's a limited amount. I essentially did 10 gallons, but because of the 10.5 gallons, but because of how much a liquid volume those hops soaked up, I didn't get quite what I wanted out of the tail end of it. But I split it into 2 batches, one with the Cellar Science Cali yeast, which is a newer version of the same California ale, Chico, Sierra Nevada, whatever, American ale yeast. And then the other half was Mangrove Jack M44 US West Coast. And I just wanted to see what the difference was between those 2 yeasts. And I kind of threw in an extra variable of the fresh hops. And I forgot I did dry hop that. I took the rest of the hops, dried them out in the dehydrator, and then I'll throw it up on the page later on. I stuffed a leg of pantyhose worth of hops, and I was dry hopping at like 1:30 in the morning with these, and I let it set with those dry hops for about 3 days before I kegged it. So I forgot I had done that part. That definitely attributed to the kind of floral aromatic qualities, but it also, because they're fresher hops, you had that kind of nice fresh grass, but not over the top chlorophyll like when you're mowing the lawn. So
yeah, I almost got sort of the same sensation when you like walk by a jasmine bush and you're like, oh, like as soon as I popped open the bottle, it was like that same sort of sensation. It was really neat. So the one that I opened was the Cali one. Did you notice a difference between the two yeasts?
Me, not so much. Caitlin's got a little bit better palate than I do. You said you noticed some bitterness on the M44?
Yeah, the Cali's just a little smoother than the M44. There's just a little bit of a bite to the M44 that I don't really know how to describe, but it's just a little bit different. It's not a whole lot.
Cool.
That's awesome. How much do you think you dry hopped with, Kenny? Yeah, I mean, it was just like 1 full leg of the pantyhose, roughly.
I think
I'm just trying to get a gauge on it.
Like knee-high?
I think it was about 1 ounce to 1.5 ounces in each bucket, but it was like dry hops. Like I was literally shoving this leg full of pantyhose full of hops, and I'll try to post that to the club page when I can. But yeah, I had some marbles down in the toe of the pantyhose to try to weigh it down.
Super crucial for dry hopping with full cone hops, like super crucial.
Yeah. So it was kind of difficult. I should have made little compartments and done weights in each compartment. That would have made it a little bit better, because some of the hops ended up not getting submerged into the liquid. But overall, I was just really grateful that I had an opportunity to brew with something very fresh and unique that everybody around here has Cascade and whatever else, but to have something unique, like essentially a wild cluster hops that supposedly originated from the German immigrants that came out here to California. It was really, really cool and a unique experience. And I have a little bit of them left. I might play around with another brew, but they're all dried and vacuum sealed in the freezer.
Did they smell really pungent? Sorry to keep catching you right as you're muting yourself, but
that's all right.
How were they when they were wet? Like, were they really pungent compared to some of your other hops that you've grown before? Or were
To
they
me,
pretty mild?
they had the whole standard floral, but it was more to me it was kind of perfumey and I definitely got maybe a little bit of citrus off of it, but it was very unique. I've never brewed with cluster hops, and apparently it's very well known in some of the old school American lagers and ales. So it would be really interesting to kind of dive into some of the historical recipes that use cluster.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. Really appreciate it. And I do have to say, I think it was like 3 or 4 months ago when I was talking about hop oils and how they interact with beers. A lot of the German nobles, are really well suited for dry hopping because they're so diverse in their oil composition. So if you ever have a hop that's really low in alpha acids and you don't really know what to do with it, try dry hopping with it. When we did our dry hopping trials, where we dosed some of the what was it? I think it was Bud Light Platinum. We dosed some of the Bud Light Platinum with like 2 to 3 pellets of hops, just as a dry hop. And some of the best hops that people rated, when we were like, okay, who liked this one? Who liked that one? The ones that did the best were the lower alpha acids, So I highly recommend trying those lower alpha acid hops for your dry hopping because they do have a really wide diversity of hop oils. All right. Well, other than that, I mean, so we've got our Humboldt Homebrewers Happy Hour coming up on next Monday. Yeah. Oh yeah. I know, Hans. That's why we're cutting it off right now. We're cutting it off. On Monday, this coming Monday, we've got our Homebrewers Happy Hour. Happy Hour, not Hoppy Hour. So we're
Happy hour work.
Yeah, it's just our time to shoot the shit and catch up and drink a beer together.
What time is the happy hour next Monday?
7?
7?
It is at 7 p.m. to accommodate for all those people who get off later in the day and who need to eat before they drink.
Absolutely. Just want to make sure you get those
say
right
hi to their family before they drink a little bit. It's really informal. I think there's been like 2 to 3 of us, 3 to 4 of us. It's just good to chat outside of our normal homebrewer hour or homebrewer business hours. And we will likely be, either pushing it off for December or changing the time. So keep an eye out on the email, Google Calendar, or the Facebook. I think Facebook is pretty much where most of us get our information, right?
Yeah.
Give me a thumbs down, a big thumbs down if you don't use Facebook for your calendar information. All right, Matt, how would you prefer to get information for events and stuff?
Well, you said give a big thumbs down, so.
Oh my gosh, monkey see, monkey do, huh?
I was trying to help out.
I'm happy to give a big thumbs down to Facebook in general.
Right, yeah.
Wouldn't we all? We'd love to just zuck it up.
That was my takeaway.
Email's good too.
I'm fine
well,
with
maybe
whatever.
I'll shoot out an email with just the event information for Homebrew Happy Hour.
Does the club have any other social media accounts?
I mean, do you really trust any algorithms?
We have Instagram.
No. Answering a question with a question, sir.
You can't include a link. You cannot include a link on Instagram. I do have to say.
Okay. But the club does have Instagram, correct?
The club does have Instagram. However, you cannot include links that you can click on. So it's pretty
here
much
follow
useless.
Instagram. Oh yeah.
I'm just saying, like there hasn't been any activity on the Instagram page since March. I know things have been challenging, but I think it's another avenue. Even though nobody here really likes the social media, but it's kind of another avenue to reach maybe a different demographic, perhaps.
It really
You're a
doesn't
volunteer
drive
for
a whole lot of
social media
traffic.
director.
I've tried looking at the reach of it, and it doesn't drive a whole lot of that.
It's hard to make reach when there's no posts.
Yeah,
that's kind of making a sandwich with bread and wondering why there's no peanut butter on it.
Well, if only our PR person could participate in this discussion.
Kenny maybe wants to volunteer for social media manager.
Yeah, wait, should we split off PR to social media?
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you're aware, but I do take care of social media marketing, website content, other marketing for another business. So, my dance card's pretty full at this point. However, it would just be nice to see a little bit more content kind of spread out on where the club already has access to. That's pretty much all I was getting at.
Yeah, let's break up all that doom scrolling to homebrew scrolling. Agreed. I don't even know if our PR person has a computer, so we shall find out soon enough. Well, anyway, all right, everyone, this is the 2-hour mark, 3 minutes over 2 hours. Let's get the fart out of here. It was great to see all of you. Neil was a great host, a great Q&A person. He can talk and talk and talk. I'm really looking forward to trying some of his beers because I have not had any of his beers. Pete, you can vouch for his adventurousness into the herbal forays. And good to see y'all. Keep brewing. Whether you drink it or not, that's up to you. I was able to brew 5 gallons, and I probably only drank like a pitcher worth of it, and I was able to give away that much more because I said, anyone who leaves a growler will get it filled up, and I was able to give away 8 growlers of my beer for all of my friends who were like, yes, I haven't had fresh homebrewed beer in so long, and that's how I'm getting one of my bathrooms tiled. So, let's keep chatting on the interwebs. I hope you guys keep participating in the Facebook posts. We'll be bringing them up because really that is how we can participate in whatever time zone we can. Please keep that in mind. Everyone has different schedules. Everyone has different attention spans. So if you can, log on to our Facebook page, our Humboldt Homebrewers group page, because that is how we can keep the conversation going on whoever's schedule we are trying to meet. All right, everyone. I'd love to see all of you, and I would love to consume all your beers. Don't forget, look for Hans's email. Hans's email coming out to go to his house and get those brew ingredients. I really look forward to seeing what anyone comes up with. And this is our mini competition for the year, unfortunately, but fortunately, we are able to do this. Thank you, Kenny. Thank you, Humboldt Beer Works, for vacuum sealing ground grain. Is that all ground grain? Shit. Good job. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Kenny. You really went above and beyond for that. I cannot say thank you enough. Yeah, thank you for that.
It's for the love. I didn't know when people are going to be brewing with it, and I had access to packaging equipment, so I figured, what the hell, why not?
Much appreciated. All right, everyone, hold up a beer. Let's cheers to each other for this community, for this beer, for this inventiveness and our artistic endeavors. All right, everyone, get out of here. Go enjoy your families or your beers or your cats or your dogs or your sweet, sweet solitude. All right, cheers.
Just wanted to point out that it's raining now, which.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, we had a quick little pitter patter in McKinleyville like 15 minutes ago, but it was pretty quick.
Thanks for your enthusiasm, Chris.
Oh, my pleasure. If there's anything I can give to the group, it's my enthusiasm.
I love it.
Although
I do.
I'm contending with a lot of time sucking things around my house. All the contractors are done with my remodel, so now I have 2 bathrooms to tile, and that includes baths, showers, and floors, and oh my God. Oh, and a laundry room I need to plumb, and a kitchen to build, and a kitchen to plumb. And Hans, I'm not envious of your little shit. I mean, your poop shoot. As soon as I saw your pictures, I was like, someone forgot a flange.
Yeah, somebody forgot a flange on that. How the F you forget that, I don't know. But they forgot it.
Hey, just stacking up wax on top of it, you're good.
Telling you, multitasking will kill you every time.
Yeah. They must have been drinking a lot of beer.
Yeah, really.
Matt, have you run into any fun surprises yet?
No fun surprises. No, not yet. Just a lot of carpet removal and lots of cleaning.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I don't have to build a whole kitchen though, or deal with the poop shoot. So I think I'm good. Good so far.
As far as you know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's some shit for sure.
Yeah, have you crawled under the house yet?
Fuck no. I don't have any coveralls.
Oh man, dude, you know the place to go for coveralls? I gotta say, for those tall people, Tractor Supply. It's the only place in the entire county that I could find coveralls that actually fit me with Tractor Supply. I was like, I want to go to Picky. I want to go anywhere in Eureka. I want to go places for coveralls. No one had coveralls that fit me.
That's a good tip. That's a good tip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right, guys.
All right.
Cheers.
Night night.
There y'all.
Out.
Cheers.